What do you say, everybody? And Roll Tide today starts practice, and this is the first of a couple of shows we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what to expect from Alabama and the new numbers. How about this? I mean, when your number is actually your uniform, it matters what number you wear, and some interesting number twists as well. So like, subscribe, thumbs up, and let's get this thing started with a big Roll Tide, brought to you by mybookie.ag, by the way. Clint, I feel like I've hung out with you all weekend, but it's been on that message board. Don't hold it against me when I was pretty fired up about the way that 30 seconds went to end the Bama game. So we won't talk about that here. I'll see you at covercrimson.com for that. Let's talk about football. And you got practice starting right now. And we had a bunch of, guys change numbers, happens every year. And then the freshmen coming in. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's not just the number changes, it's the weight changes too, which I think is the more fascinating part. Because it kind of starts to tell you where certain guys are trending. Like Jamarian Latham, he's currently sitting at 265 pounds. He was 278 last season. He's making that move from Bandit to Wolf, drops 13 pounds. I think the goal is for him to be sitting around 255, 250-ish before the start of the season. But that kind of tells you, okay, he's definitely on that track. You get a guy like Kelby Collins, who is the transfer from Florida. He's going to be wearing the number 17. I think he wore 11 for Florida, but he's listed at 6'4", 285. Now, sometimes it's just a guy reports a little bit heavier. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a reasoning behind it, though, because he was 278 pounds for Florida, and that was as he started transitioning from being an edge to an interior defensive lineman, a full-time interior defensive lineman. So despite the fact that he gets to Alabama and the expectation is for him to play Bandit, he has gained another 7 pounds compared to where he was at Florida last year. So what does that tell you? Okay, maybe just with where Alabama's at with this Bandit position, it's possible that Collins ends up being an interior defensive lineman. It's also possible that he's going to be more of a flexible guy who is going to see snaps on the interior, which I've talked about. Jordan Renaud, LT Overton, all those guys are typically playing. Typically the furthest you'll see them playing inside for the most part is going to be 4-eye on the inside shoulder of the tackle. Really, it's going to be, further out, 5-tech, 4, 6, whatever. But for a guy like Kelby Collins, I think he's going to see a larger percentage of his snaps inside compared to the other Bandits, or it's possible that he could be a full-time interior defensive lineman. So, you could go through this entire list, and we'll kind of touch on some different guys, but I think all of it, to a degree, it tells a story. But then you also got the heights and weights for the freshmen who have come in, and I think that's a pretty big storyline too.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's always funny, in baseball, you get the media guide, and it's you're looking at a dude that's 6'2" and 205 pounds, and he's listed. He gets 6 foot, 165. But in football, it matters so much. I mean, even watching Jalen Milroe's hand size differ between the Senior Bowl and the combine. All that stuff, those measurables, they matter. I mean, still, when you go out and play the game, that's the most important thing. But seeing those size differences, and I guess I'm just fascinated with the helmet numbers because, like I said, that they're on the helmet and the jersey, right? Your number is your logo. It's crazy, right? I can sit here and think of okay, number 8, well, that's Julio Jones, right? Number 12, number 7, that's Jay Barker. Number 12, that's so.
Yeah, I love how you said number 12, and then you're like, well, there's about 50 people that you could list as the number 12, so you're just like, we'll move on. We won't list all of them.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Used to be that special number, though.
It did.
And Don Russell's wearing it, and I was like, you know what, man, that's been the Bama quarterback, top of the chart number.
Yeah, and he's listed as 6'3", 192. So after being 175 pounds, according to On3 and 24/7, he's gained pretty substantial weight. And so you don't have to worry about that quite as much as far as him being able to hold up. I think that's a good thing. Justin Hill is another one. He's going to be wearing number 8 for Alabama. Was listed at 220 pounds, according to all the recruiting services. On the roster right now, 6'3", 242 pounds. That's a lot closer to year one contributing type of weight. I don't know what he looks like from a strength standpoint. Obviously, you know, Jan Zapier was like 6'3", 239 last year. You know, he still wasn't quite physically ready to be able to hold up in the SEC. So 242, I just think that's a lot closer. And I think a guy like Justin Hill and his skill set, it fits what Kane Womack wants to do with that Wolf position, maybe more so than anybody not named Jahad Campbell. I think if, you know, it's kind of tough because all the star power that Alabama had as far as his pass rushers and the way that they had recruited in an ideal situation, Jahad Campbell probably would have been your full-time Wolf. But with Alabama kind of needing a second off-ball linebacker, now you had Justin Jefferson, you had Deontay Lawson, so you could have made that work, and they did make that work where they would get all three on the field at the same time. But then you're having to take off, you know, a Quay Russaw, and you're not replacing him with Jan Zapier. Like, you got a lot of five-star talent that you really want to keep on the roster that's not getting to play. So Jahad Campbell was kind of that versatile chess piece when I think when you think of the typical ideal Wolf in Kane Womack's defense, it's a Jahad Campbell type of player who's very comfortable playing off the ball, can rush the passer, has really high upside as a pass rusher. I think it's possible that he does that a lot more on the NFL level, and he's impactful in that way. Justin Hill, you know, has some similarities to that. But, you know, I think that kind of tells a story. You look at a guy like Marshall Pritchett, 235 pounds, listed at 6'5", 235, going to be wearing the number 18. But he was 211 according to 24/7, and he was 220 according to On3. So he's gained substantial weight. Looks like he's going to be closer. He was saying, I think back in January, he said that he was 226, and before the start of the season in fall camp, he wanted to try to be 240. He's sitting there at 235, so he's already getting pretty close.
Yeah, well, they got the best food and weight training facility that you could have, and I'm interested to see, like, once that they corral this revenue sharing and this NIL stuff, if having great facilities matters again, because I feel like right now, you know, you can just buy players; it doesn't matter. But you know, I'm curious, and then kind of relating it to this, I mean, you know, guys changing their body to be able to fit a position. You know, it's like when you see like an offensive lineman, you know, who's huge in college, you know, Mike Johnson, and then you see him now, and you're like, man, he's lost a ton of weight, you know, and that's good. You wouldn't imagine he was as big as he was when he was in the NFL. Or when he was at Alabama. Now, some of the jersey numbers that were interesting to me, Clint, and, you know, just as an Alabama fan here, Jalen Mbakwe went from number 9 to number 3. I guess that means that, like, he's all in on the offense.
Well, yeah. You know, he went from 9 to 6 in the bowl game and then to 3. So I guess if he's going down by increments of 3, he'll be 0 pretty quick. No, that's actually A.K. Deer, who is wearing the number 0. Still got Deontay Lawson wearing it on the defensive side. But that is one where it's like, you know, I do think Mbakwe is an interesting case study this season because, as I've said before, I almost feel like you would have been better suited to stay on the defensive side. Now, I don't think you would have had a clear path to a starting role, but being that potential cornerback 3, you know, I think that he would have continued to kind of serve as that. And I think he could have been pretty damn good there. Now they have Cam Calhoun, and I really like him as well. I think, you know, what number is he going to be? I think the number 9, if I'm not mistaken. But he's another guy, you know, was listed at 177, so a little bit light. But that was at Utah last year. Now he's listed at 180. So he's gained a little bit of weight. Like, you just go through and you look at all these guys, and like Cam Dewberry, 330 on Texas A&M's roster last year, 345 on Alabama's roster. That's a 15-pound difference. Now, do I think that was by design? I mean, when you've got guys like Geno Vandenberg going from 333 to 325, you've got Caden Proctor losing weight. Some guys, when they're lean, they have them, you know, put on some weight, but it kind of seems like everything's with those bigger guys is kind of moving in one direction. And then you got Cam Dewberry adding 15. Was that the goal? Probably not. If I had to guess, he probably just reported a little bit bigger than, you know, he was probably supposed to. So I would expect that to probably get back down to the 330s somewhere. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, Mick.
Guys, we're brought to you by mybookie.ag, promo code next round to double your initial deposit as we roll towards March Madness. Bama playing Florida this week, Auburn to finish the regular season. and coming off one of a terrible loss because they had it won and they gave it away. So we'll see how they recover against the Gators. There's no time to sit around and cry because basketball and the conference this year is so tough, and Alabama still has a chance to achieve the national championship, which seemed to be their goal, not to win the SEC, but to win it all. But they're going to have to play better and coach smarter. And I think Nate Oates kind of brought that up. But if you feel good about it, mybookie.ag, and you can talk about all this stuff on the message board. Or I asked Jake Coker, general discussion, by the way, and we can save this for the message board, about the Grateful Dead and started talking to him about that on Elephant in the Room. And then I just threw it out there for you guys. General discussion. I'm going to handle those from now on, the message board. So, Clint, you're always welcome to come over.
Yeah,
you're on the other side a lot, though.
yeah. I'm more of the. I'm trying to figure some things out. I like the general takes though.
Yeah. What's fun? Well, anyway, $25 off right now, the annual subscriptions because 2025. So press conferences. Now that we got football, we got press conferences, and we're going to change probably some of the show times moving forward. And we wanted to let you guys know that, depending on what's going on with football practice. And like today, we want to pop on after practice and talk to you guys. But when are we going to hear from Coach DeBoer and the coaches?
Yeah, I mean, we've already heard from them. I mean, it's already happened. We won't be talking about it until later this afternoon. But we'll be going live and we'll be discussing that and hopefully discussing a lot more of this roster stuff because I get so many questions about what stuff means, and there's just been so many changes it's worth talking about.
All right, guys, we'll do that later on today, and it's cool to know that the team is finally back in action again, which is so much fun, right? All right, let's talk about the NFL Combine. Jalen Milroe's hand got bigger, which is amazing. If the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit.
We're doing OJ references now.
Remember
I don't think Milroe was a popular guy, but I think comparing him to OJ.
That was me with the hand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think.
Thanks, Clint.
I think every guy would love to get half an inch added to their hand size.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reason that's important is because it was going to be like historically low. You just don't see quarterbacks sub 9-inch have success. It's very hard to grip the football, hang on to it. It's kind of surprising that Milroe would kind of been able to generate the torque that he was with a lot of his throws, considering the hand size. But at the same time, you did see that show up because he had a problem holding onto the football at times in the pocket. Texas A&M, his first career start. I mean, you saw that on multiple occasions. But
obviously that Michigan game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with hand size. But I mean, he kind of proved that you do some stretches, you get yourself right. You can add up to half an inch. There could be some mismeasurement from the Senior Bowl's part. I would expect the combine to be a lot more accurate, but I think that's pretty big because you go from like Tyler Booker running his 10-yard split was a 1.97. It's rare for an offensive lineman to have a lot of success in the NFL when you run that slow in your first 10 yards.
Right.
I think he's an outlier to that, but it's so rare that it's almost like it's a disqualifying type of thing. It's the same thing with Milroe's hand size and the fact that he was able to get it up half an inch. That could mean more than people realize.
Yeah. Jihad Campbell stole the show with his running ability, but how about CJ Dupree just pumping out some iron in there, man? Just throwing up reps like you.
Yeah. Just like me. He probably needs 2 or 3 more to reach my level, but that was cool to see, and that shows up on tape too. He's one of the better blocking tight ends in this class. I think he's a better receiver than kind of what was shown at Alabama. Like you saw some of it at Maryland. I think he'll be more utilized on that level, or in that facet on the next level. But yeah, I thought he had a good performance as well.
Well, do you feel like anyone changed their perception? Do you think helping, having Dupree lift weights like that is going to help his draft status as we wrap things up?
I think Dupree probably did some things to help himself, not necessarily from that standpoint. I think it was more the hands, running the gauntlet, looked pretty smooth doing that. Tyler Booker looked really smooth going through drills.
Mhm.
Don't know how much a team's going to look at that 197 and say, I mean, that's, like I said, that's pretty rough, but I don't think it's indicative of his skill set as a player. Like, I mean, what it more so tells me, I mean, I think he ran like a 4.38, 4.37, something like that. So not overly fast in the 40 either, but that's kind of what we talked about. Like he did about as well as someone possibly can, considering he wasn't really a great schematic fit for Kalen DeBoer's offense. That's really going to require athleticism, getting out there on the move, but he did a really good job of that. It's just, when we start talking about how things might look a little different, I think Tyler Booker will be a much better player and more of a power-based downhill run scheme, which I think is where he's going to end up in the NFL. And I think Alabama, they're going to miss a lot of qualities from Tyler Booker, a ton. But I think from, getting a little bit more athletic with Geno Vandermark, hopefully Cam Dewberry can lose some of that weight, because I don't think that's helping him. But, in injecting some more athleticism in the offensive line, I think could be a good thing. But one thing I also do want to point out, Jaden Roberts got a little bit bigger. Cam Dewberry is a big guy. If it ends up being those two playing, flanking Parker Brailsford at center, maybe that can compensate that run blocking ability, their ability to generate some movement can compensate a little bit for the lack of size from Parker Brailsford. So that's something else to keep an eye on, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right, guys, we'll be on covercrimson.com on the message board. Sign up right now for covercrimson.com. $25 off your annual subscription because it's year 2025. Clint handling all of the football stuff. Stacy on there as well. I'm going to be on talking to you guys about the best places to drink in Auburn. Oh, wait a second. There are none. All right, we'll talk to you later today with the live show. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. And from the bottom of my heart, roll Tide.